Trump rejects allegations of visiting Epstein's island. WHO chief says turmoil creates chance for reset. Iranian protester Irfan, released on bail amid conflicting execution claims. EU must push for Made in Europe strategy. Israel reopens Gaza's Rafah border crossing to Egypt. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that he has never visited the private island of financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was accused of sexual crimes involving minors. Trump was responding to a joke made by comedian Trevor Noah during the Grammy Awards, which referenced both Trump and former President Bill Clinton as having visited the island. Trump called the remark false and defamatory, emphasizing that he has never been there or even accused of doing so. The president also threatened legal action, saying he may sue Noah over the statement. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2019 on charges of trafficking underage girls, with prosecutors alleging the abuse took place between 2002 and 2005. He died by suicide in a New York jail while awaiting trial, ending the criminal case against him. The head of the World Health Organization says major funding cuts, driven in part by the United States' planned withdrawal, have forced the agency to restructure, creating what he describes as a leaner and more focused organization. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told the executive board that 2025 was one of the most challenging years in the agency's history, as reduced donor support led to significant budget pressure. More than 1,000 staff members have left the organization as a result of the financial strain. However, Tedros said the WHO had anticipated such risks and has now completed a process of prioritization and realignment. He emphasized that the crisis also presents an opportunity to strengthen the agency's core mission and improve long-term stability. The United States, historically the WHO's largest donor, began the process of withdrawing in early 2025 under President Donald Trump and currently owes roughly $260 million in unpaid dues. Iranian protester Irfan Soltani has been released on bail after widespread reports last month claimed he had been sentenced to death for taking part in anti-government demonstrations. Soltani, a 26-year-old clothing shop owner, was arrested in January near Tehran during nationwide protests that were met with a harsh security response. His family was initially told he faced imminent execution, sparking international concern. Iran's judiciary later denied that a death sentence had been issued, saying Soltani was instead charged with security-related offenses that carry prison terms. His lawyer confirmed he was freed after bail of roughly $1,200 was posted. The case gained global attention, prompting warnings from U.S. President Donald Trump about potential consequences if executions move forward. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei responded by cautioning that any attack on Iran could trigger a broader regional conflict. Europe must take stronger steps to protect its industries through a Made in Europe strategy, according to EU industry chief Stéphane Séjourné. In an article co-signed by more than 100 business leaders, Séjourné warned that without a bold and practical industrial policy, Europe risks becoming a quote playground for global competitors. He called for a clear preference for European-made products in key strategic sectors, especially when public funds are involved. The proposal comes ahead of the European Commission's planned Industrial Accelerator Act, which is expected to encourage governments to prioritize locally manufactured goods. Supporters, including France, say the move is necessary to help European companies compete with cheaper imports from China. However, some countries such as Sweden and the Czech Republic caution that buy local policies could discourage investment, increase costs in public contracts, and weaken global competitiveness. Israel has reopened the Gaza-Egypt border crossing for a limited number of people, allowing some Palestinians to leave the territory and others who fled the war to return for the first time. The Rafah crossing, the main gateway for Gaza's more than 2 million residents, has remained largely closed throughout the conflict. Its partial reopening marks a key step under the initial phase of a U.S.-brokered ceasefire reached in October. Officials say about 50 Palestinians were expected to enter Gaza on the first day, with a similar number allowed to exit, all subject to strict Israeli security checks. Israel took control of the crossing in May 2024, months into the war. The closure had severely restricted access to medical care outside Gaza, leaving many wounded and sick residents unable to travel for treatment. Under the new process, travelers must obtain Israeli approval and walk roughly 2.5 kilometers through a heavily secured border zone, passing multiple checkpoints before crossing.